Yo, what is good, family? Hope you all are having an amazing day. Let's kick it off with today's session. We have this bullish idea on Bitcoin already running. We hit exit 1, came back to entry, hitting exit 1 again. So if you're new, make sure to take full volume at this level of the price. If you are more advanced, obviously, you can let it run, which is what I always do. Let me Yo, what is good, family? Hope you all are having an amazing day. In today's video, we're gonna break down the setup that we had this morning with a private group of students in English at the open of the London session. And basically it was this beautiful long, pretty similar to the setup we had yesterday, and both were wins. So yeah, we're on a quite of a winning streak if we sum up the setups we had last week. But so far so good. We are gonna break down this structure first of all, because we were quite bearish, and if we mark up the structure from the highest high, we clearly see more than three impulses. We see one, we see two, we see three, we see four, and we see multiple impulses, clearly more than three. Remember that for a bearish rule of the third impulse, we always look for two impulses and two pullbacks, right? If we have more or less than that, it's not a valid setup for a rule of the third impulse. So in this case, let's mark up the most recent structure. We had low, high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. You have in the channel the way I used to mark up the structure pretty much in a very objective and systematic way, because I believe market structure is something super subjective. And with this method, the M5R method, which you have explained on the multiple videos that we have on the channel, you will learn and understand why I mark up the structure in this way. And the good thing is that it is extremely objective. You will see and be able to mark up the structure the same way. Right now, if you have 1 week studying with me, it doesn't matter if you have 1 week or 1 year studying with me, you will be able to mark it up in the exact same way. But basically, when we approach to the open of the session, we mark up the last high and mark up the last low. In this case, it correlates with the same candle. That will happen sometimes on a bearish candle. We pretty much every single time create first the high and then the low. So the movement of the price was bearish, bullish, bearish. So this was the impulse from this high to this low. That's why this is the lower high and this is the lower low. Now, a lower low correlates with a bearish rule of the third impulse 100% of the times. If we are selling on a lower low, means that the only way to sell is on a rule of the third impulse. If we are buying on a lower high, means that 100% of the times we're buying on a break off structure. That's basically it. If we are buying on a higher high, it means that we are buying with a rule of the third impulse. If we are selling on a higher low, it means that we are selling with a bearish break off structure 100% of the times. Now, for the rule of the third impulse, you must have two impulses and two pullbacks. Right here, we already have one, two, three. So for a rule of the third impulse, you must be right here before the third lower low is created or the third higher high. But right here, we have already more than three, clearly. So this setup was not valid. The sell was not valid. Therefore, we go for the long. Now, the long is pretty interesting because we have a lower high, we have a lower low. This is a perfect level to look for bullish ideas. Now, looking for bullish ideas, basically, we have the first of all the possibility of, all right, setting up a buy stop, but the only just as we just broke down, the only requirement for a rule of the third impulse, the only requirement for the BOS is that the candle that gives the high or the low must be different to the candle that gives the entry. This basically means that if this candle, the very next candle that is going to open, creates a low, we must wait for that candle to close if we want to set up a buy stop. Because let's imagine this happens pretty often. Let's imagine that the next candle opens, creates a lower low, and then rejects and goes up all the way to the upside. Okay, this happens sometimes. The same candle that makes the low gives the entry. That will happen a lot of times. But if you see and you gather enough data, you will see that those scenarios usually correlate with then market rejecting in the same candle and creating another lower low, doing that, or perhaps even doing this, all right, on a different candle. This will happen a lot of times. So the only rule for us to follow a break-off structure is that one candle makes the low and a different candle makes the entry. Exactly the same thing that happened today, because today was a setup that followed the system step by step, ABC. One candle makes the low, another different candle gives the entry. That's the only requirement. Now, the session today started at 9, as every single day. We jump into the charts 5 minutes before to see what is going on with the price and what possibilities we can find. And right after that, we say, all right, this is the BOS. Candle at 9:01 activated the setup, meaning that we had only 6 minutes of trading session today. All right, we jump in 5 minutes before the open, 1 minute after the open, idea goes active. So only 6 minutes of trading session. Exactly at this time, you can pretty much ignore everything else, because you make sure that you have your invalidation and your exit set. You don't need to do anything else, really. I mean, you just go over your day. Obviously, if you are in the session with me, you have to obviously follow it up, ask questions, follow the homework, follow the tasks that I always break down in the sessions. But if you're doing this by yourself on a different time window or whatever the case may be, you just go over your day. You don't have to be in front of the charts once the idea goes active, because today and yesterday were pretty fast setups. But sometimes it will be 30 minutes, it will be 1 hour, it will be 4 hours, perhaps even 6 hours. I mean, sometimes it goes pretty slow. And today was 150 pips of invalidation. Sometimes it's over 1,000. So we don't know when the market is going to give us those longer setups. Not swing, but more likely of intraday. This is more like a scalping. But we do not control if the market is going to give us today a scalp or an intraday. All right, we do not control it. So never stick to the chart, stick into the charts after the setup goes active. Just go over your day. The only scenario where you can have some sort of active management on the setup is if you have USD red folders. For example, I was backtesting before this video, and I was backtesting specifically September of 2022, and specifically with the euro and the pound. But we have a perfect example. We had this day at 3:10 p.m. Madrid time, Fed Chair Powell speaks. So let's say I open a setup on my New York Open. It starts at 2 p.m. So let's say about this time it's still running, which can perfectly happen. At 3:09, I will be manually closing the setup wherever it is. I don't care if it's in profit or loss. If it's super close to the exit or super close to the invalidation, I don't care. I just close it manually. All right, that's the only scenario where you can actively manage a setup. If that's not the scenario, you just let it run and you do nothing. You wait for the price to either hit the invalidation or hit the exit. All right, so that's pretty much it. Basically, the trade ran very fast today. It was yesterday was around 13 minutes. Today was 10 minutes. And basically, these are pretty bad examples because not every single trade is going to be like this. All right, not every trade is going to be so fast. Not every trade is going to be a winner. All right, the moment I have a loss, I will show it right here, and I hope we have a loss soon so you guys can see that not every trade is like this. Not every trade is so fast. Not every trade is profitable. All right, we have negative trades and we have slow trades. So it's very important that you guys assume that every single trade is basically a coin toss and is just a way for you to understand that the outcome and the probabilities of every trade are unique and are unpredictable. That's the only way to really beat this game. All right, guys. With this being said, in the description of the video, you have the link to my Telegram channel. It's free. weekly bias analysis on Bitcoin. You also have the link to my Instagram. You can shoot me a DM and ask me about available spots for the private group of students, and basically get in if we have available spots for you to have access to all my intensive courses regarding all my strategies, and also access to the live analysis sessions that I do from Monday to Friday in English and Spanish, where I send these type of exact same trade ideas with Forex and crypto. With this being said, family, enjoy the rest of your day and see you in the next videos. Let's get it.